Cominciamo puntuali, abbiamo un'oretta. Saluto anzitutto le nostre ospiti da Leopoli, saluto anche il dottor Marchetti di Fomenton, il direttore di questa bellissima biblioteca. Siamo in uno dei più bei posti del castello sforzesco. Il compito abbastanza semplice. Io vorrei dire due cose sulla città dalla quale le nostre ospiti provengono, che è Leopoli. Slowly?
Quindi benvenuti, siamo contenti. Добрий день, ми дуже раді вас бачити в одному з дуже красивих залів, в одному з найкрасивіших залів замку Francesco.
Niente, vorrei dire appunto qualche cosa per quelli che non sono ucraini a proposito appunto di questa città che è Leopoli.
Я хотів би сказати декілька слів для людей, які не є українцями, розказати декілька слів про місто Львів.
Leopoli era la capitale della Galizia orientale, faceva parte dell'impero austro-ungarico, poi
Львів – це столиця Східної Галичини, яка була частиною Австро-Угорської імперії.
Poi nel periodo fra le due guerre è stata parte della Repubblica Polacca.
Між двома війнами була частиною, належала до Речі Посполитої.
E poi dopo il 1939 è stata occupata prima dalle truppe sovietiche e poi dalle truppe tedesche e dal 1945 è diventata una repubblica dell'Unione Sovietica fino al 1991.
З 1939 року була окупована німецькими та радянськими військами. З 1945 року до 1991 року належала до частиною Радянського Союзу.
Leopoli è una città bellissima con molti segni anche di rapporti con l'Italia, perché per esempio nella piazza principale, piazza del mercato, Rinok.
Львів – це місто, яке має дуже давні стосунки з Італією.
Nella piazza del mercato ci sono tre palazzi che si sono conservati, molto belli, in particolare il palazzo Bandinelli, che testimoniano, che era un fiorentino tra l'altro come me, che testimoniano, diciamo così, di rapporti commerciali e culturali molto forti sin dal Rinascimento.
Зразки цих стосунків ми можемо бачити на площі Ринок. Дуже багато будинків побудовано італійськими архітекторами. Один з таких будинків є будинок Бандінеллі, який був флорентійцем, як і я.
Leopoli, come dice il nome, è la città dei leoni, perché appunto questi sono i simboli di questa città. Io che mi sono occupato di letteratura polacca, sono particolarmente legato a questa città perché i più grandi...
Львів – це місто левів.
Mi sono occupato di letteratura polacca.
Я займався польською літературою.
Sono particolarmente legato a questa città.
Я маю дуже тісні зв'язки з цим містом.
Perché due tra i più grandi poeti contemporanei polacchi
Тому що два найбільших, найсучасних поети, польські поети,
che sono stati anche miei amici personali,
які були моїми друзями особистими,
Zbigniew Herbert e Adam Zagajewski.
Збігнєв
Herbert,
і
Adam Zagajewski.
Адам Загаєвський.
Erano tutti e due nati a Leopoli, poi dopo il 1945 si erano trasferiti in Polonia, ma avevano conservato.
Вони оба народилися в Львові, потім вони поїхали в Польщу.
Ma avevano conservato questo grande ricordo, Zagajewski era molto piccolo, della loro città natale.
Вони залишили в своїй пам'яті дуже гарні спогади про своє рідне місто.
Un altro grande scrittore polacco legato alla città di Leopoli era lo scrittore di fantascienza Stanisław Lem.
Ще один знаменитий письменник, який мав тісні зв'язки з Львовом, це
Stanisław Lem,
Станіслав Лем,
l'autore di Solaris, che tutti forse conoscete.
автор книги «Соляріс».
Lem, quando l'ho incontrato, lui si ricordava di Leopoli.
Коли я зустрічався з Станіславом Лемом, він пам'ятав про Львів.
Si era dovuto nascondere perché la sua famiglia era ebrea.
Він повинен був переховуватися, тому що його сім'я була єврейського походження.
E aveva partecipato alla resistenza.
І він брав участь у визвольній боротьбі.
E nella sua autobiografia
В своїй автобіографії,
che in polacco si chiama Wysoki Zamek, cioè il castello alto,
на польській мові звучить «високий замок», тобто без перекладу,
per fa riferimento al fatto che dentro Leopoli c'è una collina alta.
Ця назва зразу посилала на той факт, що у Львові є високий пагорб
Con le rovine appunto di un castello.
з залишками старого замку.
E Lem racconta, come anche Herbert, che gli studenti quando fuggivano da scuola
І Лем розказує, коли вони були студентами, вони тікали разом з Гербертом, вони тікали зі школи.
andavano appunto a passare le mattine in questo bellissimo posto dal quale si vede tutta la città.
І проводили свій час, який мали проводити в школі, на руїнах високого замку.
Quindi non soltanto dal punto di vista architettonico, ma anche dal punto di vista culturale, Leopoli è sempre stata una città di grandissima importanza.
Не тільки з точки зору архітектурних цінностей, а також з точки зору культурних цінностей. Львів завжди було високо розвинуте місто.
Dopo il grande bombardamento di martedì scorso, la città è per il 70% al buio e senza riscaldamento.
Після бомбардувань минулого вівторка місто залишилося майже без світла і без газу.
Una delle cose drammatiche di questa guerra è il fatto che non soltanto ci sono migliaia di morti tra la gente civile,
одним з війна принесла дуже багато горя, і не тільки те, що війна принесла дуже багато втрат серед цивільного населення.
Ma questo modo di fare la guerra dei russi, che consiste appunto nel bombardare, nel distruggere le città,
На цей спосіб вести війну, цей спосіб з боку росіян вести війну, руйнувати міста і вбивати людей,
mette a rischio anche il patrimonio culturale dell'Ucraina.
ставить під загрозу культурну спадщину України.
C'è un tentativo di cancellare l'Ucraina dal punto di vista anche culturale.
Є загроза стерти взагалі культурну спадщину України.
In Leopoli ci sono 174 biblioteche.
В Львові є 174 бібліотеки.
È stata la città della letteratura nel 2015.
Місто Львів було містом для літератури в 2015 році.
E le persone, gli amici che ho a Leopoli raccontano che appunto le persone che stanno in città
І мої друзі, з якими я контактую, мені розказують, що люди, які залишилися в місті,
combattono una guerra che non è la guerra, diciamo così, delle armi,
ведуть війну, яка не є війною за допомогою зброї,
ma è appunto una guerra altrettanto importante per aiutare per esempio i bambini a andare a scuola.
Вони ведуть війну для того, щоб допомогти дітям, дати можливість дітям ходити до школи.
E per mantenere in vita tutte quelle istituzioni
І дати можливість залишитися функціональними всім інституціям,
che fanno parte della vita.
які становлять важливу частину життєдіяльності суспільства.
Stamattina abbiamo con noi due rappresentanti di Leopoli.
Цього ранку ми маємо тут з нами двох представників зі Львова.
La persona che è accanto a me che si occupa delle biblioteche, del rapporti con la letteratura. La persona che sta accanto a me e si occupa.
La persona che sta accanto, людина, яка сидить біля мене,
Si occupa
представляє місто, література, представляє офіс Львів, місто літератури при ЮНЕСКО.
e Kateryna Mikhalitsyna
Kateryna Mikhalitsyna
è poetessa e scrittrice.
Поетеса і письменниця.
E ha scritto anche dei bellissimi libri per bambini
Вона написала чудові книжки для дітей,
che sono stati tradotti in italiano da Jaca Book.
які були перекладені на італійську мову і вийшли в видавництві Jaca Book.
Quindi io lascio la parola a loro chiedendo di raccontare quello che accade, che cosa fanno in questa bellissima città.
Я зараз надаю їм слово, щоб вони розказали, що відбувається в цьому прекрасному місті.
Я, мабуть, ще представлюсь. Мене звати Богдана Брylynska, моє ім'я прозвучало тут.
Io mi chiamo Bogdana Brylynska.
І, як вже було сказано, я керівниця офісу Львівської літератури ЮНЕСКО.
Come già è stato detto, io sono responsabile dell'ufficio La città Leopoli per la letteratura di UNESCO.
Але також я займаюся зараз активно громадською діяльністю.
Adesso io mi occupo Faccio tanta attività per la società.
Зокрема, я працюю в громадській організації «Новий музей».
In particolare io lavoro in una associazione che si chiama Museo
I think. І яка займається допомогою працівникам музеїв на півдні та сході України.
Che si occupa dell'aiuto alle persone che lavorano nelle biblioteche che si trovano al sud dell'Ucraina.
Зараз наш офіс займається переважно промоцією української літератури за кордоном.
Adesso il nostro ufficio si occupa della promozione della letteratura ucraina all'estero.
І допомогою тим, хто зараз вимушено переміщений до Львова у зв'язку з війною.
E all'aiuto alle persone che sono state costrette di trasferirsi a Leopoli.
До Львова за час війни переїхало більше 200 тисяч людей.
Dall'inizio della guerra a Leopoli si sono trasferiti più di 200.000 di persone.
Це лише ті, хто залишився.
Questi sono le persone che sono rimasti.
В цілому через Львів пройшло більше мільйонів людей.
In generale Leopoli è stata attraversata da più di milioni di persone.
Зараз Львів – це найбільш західний прихисток для українців в Україні.
Adesso Leopoli è un rifugio più occidentale per i rifugiati.
Для нас важливо зараз, власне, розповідати більше про те, що відбувається в Україні.
Per noi è molto importante adesso raccontare tutto ciò che sta accadendo in Ucraina.
Тому що українська культура
Perché la letteratura ucraina
продовжує працювати
continua a lavorare
і продовжує фіксувати те, що відбувається в нас зараз
e
в Україні.
continua a documentare tutto ciò che sta accadendo in Ucraina.
В різних виявах, як і нової культурної спадщини, і ми не просили.
Sotto i vesti di tutte le forme, anche sotto forma più contemporanea che noi in realtà non abbiamo chiesto che accadesse.
Тому що це військова техніка, бомби, які не розірвалися.
Perché queste forme sono la tecnica per la guerra, le bombe, i missili.
Як і спогади про війну, яких ми також не просили.
Come sono i ricordi della guerra che noi non abbiamo chiesto.
З свого особистого боку можу сказати, що я не планувала жити в часи війни.
Dalla mia parte personale io vi dico che io non avevo nessun piano vivere durante la guerra.
Продовжу трошки зі свого письменницького боку.
Io continuerò dalla mia parte nei vesti della scrittrice.
І скажу насамперед, що дуже багато українських письменників зараз в окопах і зброї.
E vorrei dire che ci sono tanti scrittori ucraini che combattono, che stanno nella linea di fronte.
Вони балансують на межі між двома своїми сутностями, одну, яку не вибирали, військову.
Loro cercano di trovare equilibrio tra due sue identità, una identità di un guerriero che loro non avevano scelto, che non volevano scegliere.
Людини зі зброєю, яка мусить захищати ідентичність близьких.
Della persona che che è costretta a difendere i suoi cari e i suoi amici.
А з іншого боку, вони встигають писати про те, що бачать, як сказала Богдана, фіксувати бажаний і небажаний досвід, вимушений досвід для іноземних медіа.
E dall'altra parte loro alimentano la sua identità dei scrittori documentando tutto ciò che accade durante la guerra.
Інша частина письменників, які не є безпосередньо зі зброєю в руках,
l'altra parte dei scrittori che non combattono, che non tengono nelle mani le armi,
до яких і я теж належу, як і більшість, наприклад, організацій ПЕН України.
di cui parte anche io appartengo.
Ми маємо свій фронт захисту і творення. Ми мусимо, на нас покладена ця місія, яку частково згадала Богдана, зберегти і продовжувати творити.
Anche noi abbiamo il nostro fronte, quindi la nostra il nostro dovere è
I said it in English. Is it okay for me to speak maybe in...
Yes.
Yes, can I do this in Bogdana so it would be easier maybe for... It saves us time to talk and maybe you have questions. So those writers, Ukrainian writers, who are not directly fighting with the weapons in their hands, are just fighting, trying to preserve what we already have and also to create something new. As I am a children's writer, I just started to write something for children like a week ago, just before I actually leave Milan, because this war, the Russian war against Ukraine, changed not only physical space of Ukraine, but we are in the process of changing us as a persons, us as a nation, but also us as a Ukrainian speaking persons, meaning that language changes, it changes hugely. And as for me, as for the children's writing, somehow I rested, like I wrote a lot of poetry during this, since 24th of February. This poetry was translated into several languages, which actually let me feel, maybe not that's important in not the right word, but it felt like I am trying to build a connection, like human connection in between those languages, those cities, those nations who are ready to translate and mostly co-feel what I am rendering through my poetry. But this war took my ability to write for children, because to write for children meaning that I need some space here in my head to feel the change of the language, to know how to speak to the children living in absolutely new reality for which we are all not prepared. Both, I guess, we are Ukrainians and Italians also, because it changes not only that part of the world where we are living, but also the whole Europe, the whole system of values. So my grandmother was a child of war, and now I am come here with my daughter, and she is also a child of war. This is something completely unimaginable. So this is the reality we are living in. And the most what I did, though I lost my ability to write for children, I didn't lost my ability as a person or as a mother of three to have fun with children, to play, to read, to speak, to make them feel a little bit more normal, if as much as it is possible. And libraries and cultural institutions were the most appropriate places where we did this, because Ukrainian and Lviv libraries, for example, are today are most like volunteering centers, because people are coming there, refugees that Bogdana mentioned, writers, just children, I mean local children and the refugees' children just come in there to sit in a safer place, because there are no safe places in Ukraine, unfortunately. So to read, to communicate, which is very, very important right now. And adult person, while children has to do with the writers, for example, playing, reading, doing theatrical things. So adult, their parents or caregivers, they are making nets. And making net is also very important. It's like the persons who do that has a chance to feel like they are doing very important things, because soldiers asked for those nets to cover the techniques, to cover themselves. And this is all what we do. We are all in the war, and all of us on its or his or her own places try to do our best.
Well, I will add, because I was very because I was trying to be very like short at the beginning, because it's very hard to translate any cases. We thank you for this. Yeah. The thing is that now also when I'm working in the literature, in the heritage sphere, etc., I'm listening to the stories. This is my perspective of the war. I'm listening to the stories of the people who got hurt because of the war, who need to be in safe place, but they are under the occupation. I have a lot of friends which were under the occupation all the time when her son was under the occupation. And they were like, what they were doing. They were not just sitting and being afraid. They were trying to save the heritage. They were trying to save the books which were stolen from the libraries and were burned by the Russians, a lot of them. Nobody believes me, by the way, when I was in Germany, when I said that Russian people are burning books, a few people just said, no, it couldn't be. Like, what? Who would burn books in 2022? Russians would. Because what we don't understand, and I will start from the perspective that my mom is from Krasnodar, she is from Russia. She moved to Ukraine when she was very young and lived there for most part of her life. But now she feels guilt of the country which is not her country, in the meaning of her life. It's not her country because she was living in another country. But being the Russian now, if you are the person of the European civilization, is meaning to feel guilt. That is what is lacking in the perspective of the Russians who are staying in Russia now. They don't feel guilt. They think they can do whatever they want on the territory of another country. And it's not a perspective of the, I don't know, our national identity only. It's the perspective of the civilization, of the culture, of the understanding that now in our time we are not living in the times where you are allowed to burn books, to destroy something, to be the aggressor that doesn't think that it is his, I don't know, power to do that he is allowed to do that. It's not okay. That's the thing that is the most scary for me. It was my first thought on the 21st of February that how it could happen in 2000, like after the Second World War, because my dad is also the child of the war, and I know very well the stories. And the stories are the things that will stay with us, and we will not be able to just wash it away and forget.
Again, just to continue what Bogdana already said, as we are in a kind of more convenient, let's say, circumstances living in Lviv, so I'm a PAN member, a member of PAN International, PAN Ukraine, and we are not only, this is mostly organization that has to do with the writers, but also with defending human rights. And if I am here, so I should really mention Volodymyr Vakulenko, who is an activist and a writer and a children's writer. He was captured by Russians in in Kapitolivka, that is a village near Izum. He was captured somewhere, I guess, it was in March, I don't remember the exact date, and nobody knows his fate yet. We were there with his parents, and not his father, the second husband of his mother actually said that when the Russians came, because it's like a real story from a real man whom I met and talked with, he said that when the Russians came to Kapitolivka, they said that, okay, now we will free you out. this person, Vasil, his name, is asked, from what are you going to free us? And the Russian man said, okay, we were going to free you from everything, actually, including life. And that's what they actually did. This native village of Volodymyr is almost destroyed. His family are still there. His family includes also his 15-year-old son who has some health problems, and it is really, really hard to get proper medicine over there. It has problem, again, as all Ukraine now has problem with gas and electricity. And that's, Volodya is somewhere captured. We're all really hopeful that he is still alive. And what we can do now is to give voice for his poetry, to make him visible, and like this, that this is not right for Russian to keep a father, a writer, a Ukrainian somewhere, to keep his parents and his son in the uncertainty about his fate. So that is also what Ukrainian writers do right now. Also, as Bogdana partly mentioned, Russians is what they are doing is doing ecocide, meaning they destroy the territory, the land, mines. Ukraine is the most mined country in the whole world. So that's the thing we would have to deal with even after the war is over. Our land is hugely polluted with all possible chemicals that war can bring. Actually, when I was in Kharkiv, and this is like a steppe, flat land, and for Ukrainian, who has also, we all have this heritage of Holodomor, the great famine of 1932-33, to see the corn still on the field in the middle of autumn. Believe me, this is terrifying, but this is again what Russians do. We are really an agricultural country, a culture. We have deep relationship with our land. We're really deeply connected in every possible sense with the land. And to see the corn still standing, wet and dark on the field is something absolutely unimaginable, as well as to think that so many children. When I visited Kharkiv, and the same word I do in Lviv is, again, playing with children, because that's really what I can do with them to make them a little bit more happier, possibly, to feel that there are still another reality. So I was in Kharkiv, and they're doing meeting, as we are all doing. Actually, in Lviv also we have this meeting, gathering with children in a rather safe place, like the underfloor of the doll theater, I guess might be called, because it's like more safer. Because no one knows when the air raid sirens will go on and for how long. So that's where, in deep underground, so in rather dark places, that's where the meetings with children held. And when I was in Kharkiv, I asked, what places in Kharkiv would you like me to visit? And they were telling about their favorite places, like parks or libraries or whatever. And some of them then added, but unfortunately you can go there now, or there is no place anymore. And that's why children, from 3 to 7 years old, they already know that there are no places they get used to go. There are no places that they really love, or even called home, and that was what was did by the Russians. So for us as writers is also to try and reveal all this experience, to make it really experience and not trauma for our children. That's also what we do.
I don't speak English so good. I can eventually in Polish, but it's in Italian is better. Io sono stato molte volte a Leopoli dopo il 1991.
Я був багато разів у Львові після 1991 року.
Perché andavo in una piccola città a una cinquantina di chilometri da lì.
Тому що я їздив в невеличке місто, яке знаходиться на відстані 50 кілометрів від Львова,
che si chiama Drohobych.
яке називається Дрогобич.
Drohobych è la città dove è nato, ha vissuto ed è morto ammazzato dai tedeschi durante la guerra.
Дрогобич – це місто, де народився і жив, і потім став вбитий, потім був вбитим німцями.
Uno dei più grandi scrittori del Novecento.
Один з найбільших письменників 1900-х років.
Bruno Schulz.
Бруно Шульц.
L'autore, anche in italiano, conosciuto delle botteghe color cannella.
Автор, якого знають також в Італії,
Sclepi Simonovè.
які називаються Симонові крамниці. Симонові.
Ecco, andavamo appunto perché dopo il 91 era possibile ricominciare a parlare di Bruno Schulz e fare degli incontri con scrittori ucraini su questo grande scrittore.
Ми їздили туди, тому що вже після 1901 року було можливим говорити про такого автора, як Бруно Шульц.
I tedeschi avevano distrutto tutto a Drohobych, c'era la più grande sinagoga della Galizia orientale.
Німці зруйнували все в Дрогобичі. Там була одна з найбільших синагог в східній Галичині.
E nel 91 era come se la guerra fosse finita il giorno prima.
І в 91-му було так, якби війна закінчилася один день перед тим.
Dal 91 sono cominciati appunto, si sono aperte le frontiere, sono cominciati gli incontri, e si passava da Leopoli, che era già una città che rinasceva, una città viva.
З 1991 року було можливим туди їздити, і було можливим їздити зі Львова також туди.
E ci accompagnava uno scrittore di cui sono diventato poi anche amico, che si chiamava Andruchovich.
І мене туди супроводжував письменник, який потім став моїм другом, який називається Андрій Андрухович. Юрій Андрухович.
Ecco, quello che quando noi ci chiediamo il senso di questa guerra terribile e assurda, proviamo.
Коли ми запитуємо самих себе про сенс цієї страшенної війни, страшної, жахливої війни,
che io credo che l'Ucraina per la Russia fosse molto pericolosa.
Я думаю, тому що це все відбувається, тому що Україна для Росії дуже небезпечна.
Molti ucraini hanno parenti in Russia.
Багато українців мають родичів в Росії.
E sentivano raccontare di un paese libero, democratico, che faceva appunto una vita che purtroppo in Russia non c'è più.
І тому родичі людей, які живуть в Росії, їм розказують про Україну як країну демократичну, розказують про всі ті можливості, яка дає демократія, якої в Росії вже немає.
La democrazia è una malattia contagiosa.
Демократія – це як хвороба, яка передається.
La libertà per gli scrittori, per i giornalisti, in Russia non c'è.
Свобода для письменників, для журналістів в Росії, свободи для письменників і журналістів в Росії вже немає.
E questo secondo me era il più grande pericolo per una dittatura, avere accanto persone che parlano la tua lingua, che hanno molte cose in comuni e che però vivono libere e possono dire quello che vogliono.
Я вважаю, що це дуже велика небезпека для Росії мати сусідом таку країну, де живуть вільні люди.
Oggi non c'è praticamente nessuno scrittore russo importante che viva in Russia.
На даний час в Росії немає ні єдиного важливого видатного письменника, який би жив на території Росії.
Stanno a Berlino, a Tbilisi,
Вони живуть або в Берліні, або в Тбілісі,
qualcuno a Varsavia.
Деякі живуть у Варшаві.
E appunto questo è il risultato, cioè del fatto che lì c'è una dittatura che non ammette la democrazia e la libertà.
Це наслідок диктатури, яка зараз є в Росії.
Il pericolo è che questa guerra sia una sorta di genocidio non solo di un popolo, come è stato l'Holodomor,
Ця війна є небезпекою, тому що це як геноцид, який цитували дівчата, Голодомор 33-го року.
ma sia anche appunto un genocidio culturale, linguistico, delle tradizioni di un popolo.
Це також є культурним геноцидом українського народу.
I will add just a bit about why Russians or why we are, maybe Ukrainians might be considered as a threat, but it's not considered really. But for my mind, it's because they try to destroy everything Ukrainian, not only the 24th of February of this year, not even since 2014. They try to destroy everything Ukrainians, like for a couple of hundreds of years. To just demolish everything, language, culture, writers, and what Russians just couldn't ruin, they like re-own to themselves. Like Gogol is a Russian writer or something like that, and they couldn't. So we are example of this great surviving, the great will to survive as a nation, as a people, as separate identities. That's, I guess, what makes them so much crazy about what they're doing with us.
Also, the thing that I want to add is that, as Katya said, yes, we have this kind of will to survive. We have a great, very sad stories about what we lost and who we lost during our history. Even now, yesterday we were talking about Kharkiv, why it is under this heavy shelling now. Because Kharkiv was one of the capitals of Ukraine for some time, but also it was the city of the modern Ukrainian literature. There was a house who was called the House of the Word, where lived all Ukrainian modernistic writers and poets. And also in that house it was during the beginning of the Soviet Union in Ukraine, were living the agents who were recording all the writers. And why do you have this special agents only looking into the work of the Ukrainian writers if you are not afraid of them? Almost all who were living in this House of the Word were killed or imprisoned. So the thing is that we know this politics that Russians do to our culture is normal for them. It's their tradition against Ukraine, I should say. And also, when you are thinking about the Soviet Union for the countries where the Union, it's not true because when you were in the Soviet Union, you couldn't be published in Ukrainian language.
Published, but hugely censored. So it's
yes, without a few words.
What everybody else wanted you to say. So.
You need to know Russian language. I know Russian language.
I'm very happy that my children don't.
Yes. So now we can have this choice. We have choice to learn English, we have choice to learn Polish, but we know Russian language not because I was speaking Russian at home. My mom, after she moved to Lviv, she learned Ukrainian after 2 months. And she spoke Ukrainian from that point till now. And this is because we were reading only in Russian. There was no books in Ukrainian at the beginning of the independence because all the books were in Russian. And what do we say about this kind of traditional thinking of Russians against Ukraine? Is the thinking that they own us. It's not because they are afraid at some point because they know that we are different, but at the same time, it's the ownership. They think that we are another sort of people. And this is the most strange and aggressive thing from their side.
This is the threat, and that is also the part of the threat. If we stay who we are, then possibly those small nations that are a part of Russia, and they are hugely dominated by modern Russia, politics and everything, maybe they also would like to have their independence, maybe they also would like to restore their identities. This is a part of this threat, and this is, like, again, our tradition that language, being a writer or being a translator, since let's mention just the beginning of the 20th century, was also always a means of fighting. Not always. You cannot be just Ukrainian writer if you are writing or translating into Ukrainian. So you are, was always the part of a resistance, of saving what you have in language. We have, right now, I just should mention one of the most prominent translator, Cataluccio, who is actually, thanks to his works, thanks to his translation of Don Quixote, for example, or other very famous things into Ukrainian, he saved different layers of Ukrainian language, like archaic words or dialectic words, because it was his official excuse to use them in translation, because he can say that, okay, the author really used like something of a kind, the same language, but it was his way to say the language through all the years. And also I would like to mention, because I know that it is translated into Italian, it is also a colleague of mine and of Bogdana, Ostap Slavinsky. He leads, because Bogdana mentioned that we are also like gathering stories. We have actually a lot of stories from different regions, from different people, from children. So Ostap gathered this like very in systematic way, and he creates a dictionary of war, and I guess it was already some part of it, but translated into Italian also, that these are really a dictionary, like how the words changed their meaning due to the war. And these items of this dictionary is written like from the stories of real people, so these are real stories and real changes, and if you try to find it in the internet, so I guess you would really find it in English or Italian.
I just wanted also to refer to what our moderator said about the Russian writers who are not living in Russia. I also often think about this, that it's like a country, a different country which is not in the land, you know. The people who are living out there. We also have a lot of people who moved from Ukraine now, and we will have another country also, like not on our land, but it's a different kind of, because we were at the same, I would say, place in 1991. Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, we had the same chance. Like the same thing we could do with what was given to us after the Soviet Union was destroyed and it shadowed, yes. And what I don't understand about the people who moved from Russia, why they didn't take the responsibility. Why they didn't take the responsibility to build a country which would be safe for others. Of course, I am not the optimist, idealistic girl. Don't think that I am. I know the reality that probably this huge country could not be standing this huge, because if there will be a true democratic ways to save it in the shape it is now, probably there will be no, if everything will be good for Ukraine, there will be no Russia in that state that it is now. There should be a huge change to make it worth it, what is happening now in Ukraine. The only thing that could be happening is the new thing, the new neighbor we would have. because nobody is feeling safe. Poland is not feeling safe now. Lithuania is not feeling safe now. Estonia is not feeling safe now. And nobody should be feeling safe when the Russia is in the state that they are now. That's the truth.
Some questions we would like to really answer because it's again about connection and understanding.
Would you like to tell something about
Can you speak?
I have a question for Bogdana. I would like to ask her if you want us to tell something about the Ukrainian publisher situation nowadays.
Yeah, Katya is also very... Well, the thing is about Kharkiv, I was telling about Kharkiv. Kharkiv is the center also of the publishers in Ukraine. And after the war started, after the shellings, a lot of publishers moved from Kharkiv their production. Some of them stayed, but still, we need to understand that now the book is the most important thing, I think, in Ukraine for Ukrainians, because we lost a lot of books now. And we have an institution which is called Institute of the Book. I think you probably have the similar here in Italy, and they are working now to support the publisher houses to buy Ukrainian books, also for the children who are not living in Ukraine now, which are living in Poland and Lithuania, etc. And I think that our publishers are pretty much heroes because some of them are even working under the shilling now very heavily. And maybe Kateryna will add something, yeah.
Just a little bit correction. So Kharkiv, there are 2, 3, 4, 5 major publishers over there. But the thing is that the more printing potential is also all printing houses is there. All these huge printing houses. And if they were not, only one was heavily damaged by Russians all the time, but there is a huge risk of getting under the shelling, so they just stopped working because of safety reasons for the workers for the first time. So the publisher right now use smaller printing houses which situated near Kiev, for example. They are already, but again, Kiev region is heavily bombed for 2 weeks already, so there is one problem. Printing houses are in a very bad condition during the shelling, and it is very risky to work there, to get there even physically. I mean, the other problem is that also the warehouses with the books were situated mostly near the printing houses. So the books that were already published in the beginning of February, March, and so they stuck on the warehouses, and there was also a problem with the condition of the books because of the humidity, because there were holes in the roofs and the snow and the rain, so some books were damaged. This is also not good for the economical state of the publishing house, but they are still, the major ones are still working, they are still publishing new books, and some of them even try to to hire the prices reasonably, or try to stay the prices on the lowest possible for surviving level, which is not really easy, because Ukraine has no paper made, good quality paper made in Ukraine. So this is also, we need to import paper into Ukraine, and this is logistically is also not easy due to all logistics is not safe and easy in Ukraine right now. That's add to the prices, but still we are doing that. I know because the book for the children I just read it, and this is a book about war somehow. Thanks to my own children, they helped me to manage to unblock myself and to try and write this. And the book was taken into the publishing plan on the other 2023 by the Old Lion Publishing House. It physically, the main office is in Lviv. Most of the people working are in Lviv, but again, the printing potential is in Kharkiv. Offices and book selling chains. So there is also this those publishing houses who has their own bookshops like Old Lion. It has 3 bookshops in Lviv, it has 2 bookshops in Kiev, it has had a bookshop in Dnipro, but I guess again it was closed due to safety reasons because Dnipro, this week Dnipro is heavily shelled by Russians, so the bookshop was closed. And it has a bookshop in Odessa, so like in several cities, and it just, so they're in a better condition comparing to those who has now this separate chains of selling books, but also they right now do not like sell only online publishing house books, but they have like agreements with other publishing houses, so like to make this process of buying and selling books more active, and also it's not just a bookshop, but a bookshop and a coffee shop in together. So somehow to attract people, to make them stay, possibly to buy books, because again, it is really very important to have books, to publish books, to talk in the form of books, but it's not really cheap, and due to the economical going down of most, because many people lost their job, many people have incomes gets lower and lower, so to buy a book, prices on which goes up, so it's not the easy thing to do. That's why, as Bogdana mentioned, the book institutions try to buy the books and to distribute at least to the libraries, and thanks to different centers in different countries, they buy the right to publish Ukrainian language books in Germany. That's because I know this because I'm going to Germany at the end of the next week, just to present my own books published there in Ukrainian, and the same was done by Polish printing publishing houses, so that's the way for the publishers to survive and for the children to have something to read. But also, again, we have a huge donation campaign, so people and the bookshops has special boxes for the readers who have already read some books, or have like spare books in their library. They could share, left the book in this box, and they, when they gathered rather reasonable number of the books, so they will go to Lithuania, Italy, whatever they have Ukrainian centers, and who has to children's or even adults who wants to read in Ukrainian. So that's that.
In my untrained English, you said it's strange in this year we have to talk about the burning of the books. I remember there is a song, Coupe Vampe, by an Italian group, an Italian music band, CSA, that they talked about the burning of Sarajevo Library. Mm-hmm. It was not 1 century ago, it was 90s. So nothing new, nothing so.
Yeah, but I would probably add that we have, like, when the bomb hits the library and it burns is one thing. When people are taking and selecting the, you know, like, which books should be burned, it's like a thing that you are project. It's a very because we have a lot of libraries destroyed now by the shelling, like a lot of bombs just destroyed our libraries. But other thing is that they take Ukrainian books and burn them
out of the libraries, and these are mainly Ukrainian language, but they are like books about Ukrainian history, books about children's books, Shevchenko's books, which is one of the most prominent actually Ukrainian writers and the founder of Ukrainian literary language. So this is a part of genocide. That's actually we are witnessing the genocide of this science. They are destroying libraries, they are destroying schools, they are destroying universities. These are not military objects. These are the objects of science. These are the objects of future. That's what they do.
But I agree totally that it's like the meaning. It's very strange feeling when you are living in the times when libraries could be destroyed, they could be burned out, and the books could be burned out. I was reading one of my favorite books when I was a kid was 451 by Fahrenheit. So for me it's like living in my book that I read when I was a kid.
Il tempo è finito, dobbiamo chiudere. Ringraziamo molto Bogdana e Kateryna per quello che ci hanno detto. Noi siamo con loro, assolutamente.
Ми дякуємо Богдані і Катерині, і ми їх підтримуємо.
E qui fuori c'è il tavolino dove l'autrice potrà firmare delle copie se qualcuno.
На вулиці є столик, де ви можете писати.
We also would like to thank the Milano City of Literature and the library, the Book City Festival, because it's a huge opportunity for us to be here and to talk with you. It's just about making the connection, and it's about staying humans together. Thank you for your help, for your support, for everything. Thank you.